Alright, so we're playing Gran Turismo now. Just jumping from one game to another. It's crazy, right? Alright, so real quick, just kind of before we get into things, I did want to mention that you'll probably hear me a couple times throughout the video, just talking to myself. That's not part of this commentary. It's just going to be that. This clip was taken while I was streaming. But, you know, no viewers, like always, so... yeah, that's why it's talking to myself here. But with that out of the way, let's get into the race. So you'll see here I do manage to get myself a third position on the starting grid, which is not bad at all. You know, I had a really good race time. And this particular race actually took place like only a couple minutes after I had just done the exact same race. I think there was like a 2-minute interval, so I was already very comfortable on the track in my car using the exact same setup, and going in with pretty much the exact same game plan as well, so you'll see that, but you'll probably hear me talking to myself about the plan. I might have passed that already. I can't hear the audio, unfortunately, but yeah, so basically my main plan here was to run 2 laps on the racing mediums. That gives me enough time to, you know, get a little more, you know, distance from anyone else. You know, the first like lap and a half tends to be a, you know, for lack of a better word, you know, just a complete and utter mess. You know, everyone's just kind of ramming into each other, trying to get a nice position before the race really gets going and everything. So, first lap, just kind of reserved for making sure that I can, you know, get a nice position. And second one, you know, a nice lap while I'm comfortable and everything. And then we go into the pits and we make our switch. Right there, it's Mr. What's his Tua time. He has a little bit of a blunder, and I actually back off just because, you know, he's in second and it's first lap, so I figure, you know, I'll let him hold on to it. There's time enough for me to let him do that, so I just let him hold on to it. I do end up losing a little bit of time, but, you know, it's still the first lap, so there's plenty of race to go here. It's a 10-lap race. But yeah, so overall, clean lap for the first race, you know, nothing too spectacular going on or anything. You know, I do manage to put a nice chunk of time between me and fourth place, and still, you know, manage to keep up with the leaders here. A little bit of a bad exit on that turn there, but, you know, that doesn't really matter. So jumping into the end of the second lap now, you'll kind of see, you know, again, a very clean lap, nothing too big going on here. I take my turn into the pit, and I actually do end up, I believe, probably taking this a little slower than I could have, but, you know, I kind of prefer to be safe. And in case you missed it right there, I was supposed to swap to the soft tires, the racing softs, but instead I hit racing mediums, and you can hear me over the mic on my stream just being like, why is there no way to change that? Which, I mean, all things considered, you know, why isn't there? But yeah, so I'm a little upset coming out of this. I know I'm gonna have to take another pit or suffer a 1-minute penalty at the end of the race, so I decided to take the lesser of two evils for that. So jumping into the end of the third lap here, I ran a pretty clean lap here, but does kind of unravel a little bit. You know, I'd managed to keep my position, and I go off track, and you can probably kind of hear me talking to myself a little bit, just basically resigning myself to the race being over and everything like that. But yeah, so I take my pit. I take it a little too fast, actually, not managing to slow down enough, just because I'm antsy and want to get back out there. So this time, making sure I hit the racing softs, no refuel again, and to do my best parody of Super GT here, the BMW pit crew wondering why the hell I didn't pick the racing softs in the first place. But yeah, so we get in, I get my tires changed out pretty quick, and I end up coming out in last place on the grid here. Right next to Mr. Willie Wildstyle. And I go and kind of just, you know, I try to start going, but he ends up taking the position here. Speeding ahead a little bit, you'll kind of see here that he's moving a little slower than I'd like. I'm kind of bumping into him. My car clearly has a little more power going up the hill, so I want to make a pass here. A little bit of a dirty pass, unfortunately, but that's I didn't want to be losing any more time than I needed to doing that, because even though like at this point I had kind of resigned myself to being like, I'm not going to win, I still wanted to keep trying and everything. And you'll see here his time, it's kind of stopped here, and then it starts to go up, which means he hit something, he lost control of his car, and that time just starts skyrocketing right now. I believe it gets up to about 15 seconds difference by the end of it. But yeah, but I end up having to serve my penalty here because, like I said, I cut across the pit lines and everything. So, yeah, but I still end up like holding my position because there's not even at that much time, there's not a whole lot going on. So, jumping ahead a lap here to roughly the same kind of position here, we come up on Mr. the Dongle here. And you can see he may have messed up just a little bit. His car is not facing quite the right way, which typically you want it to be, but to each his own, I guess. And jumping ahead once again to pretty much the exact same spot on the next lap, that's where all the action happens. So coming out here, I can see now the person here in 6th place, and so like at this point I'm kind of realizing maybe I have a shot at doing something here. I might be able to recover at least a little bit. And I didn't notice then, but he actually did have a penalty, so I managed to make a pass here into 6th place, with 5th only a few seconds ahead of me there, you can see. And it'll end up that we kind of battle it out for a little bit, and I just kind of fast forward through it, and it is a long fast forward, so if you don't want to watch it, or you think you might, get a headache from it or something, there's going to be a timestamp coming up on the top of the screen for when you can skip to if you want to just skip that. But otherwise, we're just going to keep going into it right here. So, yeah, you can see, just kind of moving forward a little bit, where, for the next, 2 laps, just kind of battling it out and everything. Maybe even 3, actually. So yeah, I spent about 3 laps behind him here, and I'm just trying to find a place where I can overtake him, but it doesn't quite work out. And so yeah, the race keeps going. I'm basically stuck in the same position. I do believe if I had managed to make a pass somewhere, I might have been able to get a little further, but also that being said, it's, hindsight's 20/20 and all that, and I might be wrong on that anyway. But yeah, coming in here to the penultimate lap, pretty clean all the way through, all things considered, for me at least. And then Mr. Who's that? Beto 62. He's running a good lap too. I managed to make a little mistake there, but it doesn't quite penalize me. But that right there, if you'll see, he skidded across the wall, and that earns him a nice little half-second penalty. So, yeah, you can see he's serving that right away. So, yeah, as we come out onto the big straight here, he's going to be having to serve that, and I'm fully planning to take advantage of that. So, I'm running on the left side here because I know that he's not going to stay ghosted long enough for me to pass straight through him. But I still make a pass alongside anyway. And yeah, so I managed to make my way into 5th place here. And now I am going to be battling against Mr. Rodriguez here for the last, lap and I guess about like an 8th at this point. But yeah, so I come in, I'm hoping I can gain some time on him here, but it doesn't work out the best. I end up I'm getting a little anxious and wanting to see if I can make a pass at him, and I make a couple mistakes, which keep me comfortably in 5th place for the majority of the race here. As you can see, I'm gaining a little bit just because this car has a fair amount of acceleration coming out of into the straights here. So, gaining on Mr. Rodriguez and putting a nice little bigger gap between me and Mr. Beto there. But you know, losing it just a little bit, but I'm still running a clean lap here, so, you know, that's the best anyone can do, really, is just run your cleanest lap. But yeah, so we come up here. I actually have a really good run through this little, I don't want to say like consecutive corners, but you know, you do have to be like, you can't just full throttle it, you know. You got to be a little more precise on it. So coming down here into the downhill braking zone, that you know, kind of the section that separates the boys from the men sort of thing. But yeah, so coming into the final corner before the straight here, you can see quick shifts up there in first place. He has just had a commanding lead the entire race. You know, he managed to take a pit stop without even losing first place, just to kind of put that in perspective. So he's already finished, so the final countdown's already begun for this race. And yeah, so at this point, I know I'm not going to be able to make a pass unless, you know, Rodriguez up here, like, seriously blunders, which he doesn't. You know, he's a really good racer, so he manages to hold his 4th position there. And yeah, so you probably heard me talking to myself a little bit earlier in the video about how I believe, you know, I'm thinking to myself that at least like 1, maybe 2 of the people in the top 3 did not switch their tires or pit stop, and I do end up being correct about that. You can see Mr. Takahashi there ends up adding a minute to his time, and I earned myself a nice little 4th place, which, coming off of a double pit mistake like that, I think, you know, I couldn't ask for anything better. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.